Hey everybody, it's Boardman21 and today's build video is going to be Lizard's Turbo Vengeance. If you haven't seen him streaming and you haven't seen him actually using this build, which is completely based around the damage that Vengeance can put out thanks to the multiplicative idols that you can get with Vengeance damage, then you really need to go on Twitch and watch him play it because it's actually a really fun build and it can get you lunging around enemies rather quickly and you're doing hits for 5,000 plus damage. I've even done up to 20,000 damage hits when all the stars align against things like the Fire Golem, which are some massive hard hitting crits. Now with that, there's going to be some idols that you have to get that increase vengeance damage. Those can be somewhat hard to gather. It took me quite a while, and honestly, without Lizard, I wouldn't have even been able to put this build together or thought about farming for it. The other thing with this build is it is a Forge Guard build, which means you are going to be super tanky. You're going to be doing such high amounts of damage. You're going to have a lot of leech incoming and a lot of damage reductions, especially with the affixes that come on the helm and the chest that can convert damage types from one type to another. This is going to allow you, along with Orion's Eye, to be able to basically only have to worry about stacking elemental protections and armor. Now, while I do give full credit to Lizard for this build will be somewhat different than his, which pushed over 400 waves, which is really good for a melee tanking character. Now, the things that we did switch out is we will not be running time reversal. We will be running Ring of Shields spec'd into instead, which does give us more damage and some more survivability. The reason we're not using time reversal, which will reduce your attack speed, is because I know a lot of people don't like bouncing around, and time reversal has that effect where it moves your entire screen. It's like teleporting and it's going off a lot, and a lot of people get headaches and they just don't like that. I myself, I like it in the arena, I hate it in the Monolith of Fate, and I wanted to give a build that's good for both, so like I said, we're going to be running Ring of Shields. Now, besides Vengeance being the main melee skill, we will be running some others that a lot of people also don't like Abyssal Echoes. They say it's a spell, but it's only to buff your melee damage. That's the only reason we're using it, and they're going to be an instacast, which I know is another thing some people don't like. You can manually use them if you want. I just prefer to use instacast with them because it goes a lot smoother, and all you have to worry about is holding down the Vengeance key and looking at where you're going and what mobs that you want to avoid. Alright, without any more ado, let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, we're going to be running Vengeance, Smite, Ring of Shields, Abyssal Echoes, and Lunge. For Vengeance, this has two main things you're going to want out of it, and that's the global increased damage and the hit damage to mobs that have already had damage done. We have 1 point in Double Ripostal, 5 points in Dark Duelist, 1 point in Zealot's Technique, 6 points in Executioner, 6 points in Bolster, and 1 point in Faint Strike. For Smite, we're going to be using this defensively and offensively. By defensively, I mean that we're going to be using it to teleport us right into the mix, and it's going to heal us, and then it's going to allow us to have a massive amount of leech because it gives us more damage. We also have 5 points in Blinding Flash to have a 50% to blind enemies that we hit. 2 points in Holy Fire, 2 points in Holy Wave, 5 points in Righteous Fury, 5 points in Righteous Flurry, and 1 point in Descend. For Ring of Shields, this is another offensive and defensive skill. For the offensive side, we have 3 points in Banding, 1 point in Molten Shields, 5 points in Touched by Fire, which gives you plus 15 flat fire damage, and 3 points in Touched by Fire, which gives you 90% increased melee fire damage. Both of these will proc if you cast Ring of Shields in the last 4 seconds, and proccing the shield from being hit, thanks to your Forge Guard passive skill, will also activate this. 2 points in Reinforcement, 2 points in Healing Shields, and 4 points in Phalanx for that 40% increased armor and elemental protections on heal for the defensive side. For Abyssal Echoes, we are using this for straight offense. It's not going to do the damage itself, but it's going to give you a bunch of melee damage so that Vengeance hits even harder. We have 1 point in Final Echo, 4 points in Abyssal Infusion, 2 points in Echomancer, 1 point in Temporal Echo, 1 point in Distant Echoes, and 4 points in Abyssal Cadence. The reason that you want these points here is for those 5 recasts, which means that when you use the skill, you'll have a total of 6 Abyssal Echoes cast. You get 28% increased melee damage for each cast in the last 4 seconds, and with a cooldown of only 1.2 seconds, we can cast this skill 3 times in that 4 seconds, which means you get 6 cast times 3 times for the skill. That's 18 stacks of Abyssal Infusion, which means 18 times 28, which ends up being around 500% melee damage, which is huge for your build. We also have 1 point in Mental Echoes, 3 points in Reality's Dirge to reduce the cooldown, and 3 points in Abyssal Remains. All in all, you'll see that we're running at a cost of 37 with a cooldown of 1.2, but we're able to have 100% uptime on it thanks to our use of Vengeance. For Lunge, you're using this for purely offensive reasons, other than being invincible while lunging. So we have 3 points in Tactician, 4 points in Forge On, 1 point in Unstoppable, 1 point in Initiative, and 5 points in Avenger's Charge. These last 6 points you can do with whatever you want, but we have 3 points in Deadly Aim, 1 point in Wound Revel, and 2 points in Reckless Lunge. For passives, in the Sentinel base class, we have 5 points in Overwhelm, 5 points in Fearless, 5 points in Relentless, and 5 points in Time and Faith. This one for the mana gained on Vengeance Huge is going to be a build mandatory passive. You need these 5 points in order to be able to sustain the Abyssal Echoes cast. In Void Knight, we have 25 points with 5 in Temporal Corruption, 5 in Devouring Blade, 4 in World Eater, 5 in Patient Doom, and 8 in Void Blades. You can remove 1 in Void Blades or in any of the other specs and put 1 into Void Corruption for a 25% increased critical multiplier. 0 points in Paladin, and 65 points in Forge Guard. We have 9 points in Battle Hardened, 6 points in Steel Aegis, 10 points in Fresh from the Forge, 1 point in Duelist, 5 points in Regenerator, 10 points in Retaliation, 10 points in Lethal Strikes, 4 points in Shieldcrafter, and 10 points in Tide of Battle. The object to get all of the stars aligned is to take the 40 physical damage and 40 fire flat damage that you get from Fresh from the Start, which will activate once every 3 seconds. Tag team that with the 5 points you put in Patient Doom. For every 3 seconds you get 150% increased damage on your next attack. Team that up with those two and then be hit in the last 4 seconds, so you get another 150% damage, and throw down a potion right after that hit for another 300% increased damage, and you're going to be hitting like a truck. This build is capable of doing hits up to 20,000 damage, even on armor and protection mobs. We have hit the training dummy for over 200,000 damage with it. That is a straight up Vengeance hit, and it is some crazy damage for a melee tank build. The leech on it's pretty crazy. The tankiness is there, especially since you're a Forge Guard. You're also getting healed, and you get life on hit. For items, for idols, you're going to want percent increased damage with Vengeance. These are a 1x3. You're going to want 4 of them. The suffixes don't matter. We have fire damage over time. We don't do a lot of ignite, so it's not huge. You can get whatever suffix you want, but the percentage increased damage with Vengeance is the most important because these are multiplicative with the Vengeance skill itself, and it's going to make it do a lot of damage. For the 1x4, you're going to want mana efficiency with void spells, and if you have a chance at the bottom, get percentage increased armor. I have one somewhere, I just didn't put it on this character. For the weapon, you're going to want plus melee physical damage, and we went with melee attack speed. We also have health on melee hit and elemental protection. You can get rid of the health on hit for a more needed resistance such as necrotic, void, or poison, whichever one you're lacking the most of. And speaking of those, on our chest and helm, you're going to want the necrotic and the poison damage taken as physical on both of them. That's going to be the most important. Tag team that with Orion's Eye to convert all void damage to be taken as fire and give you 100% more fire protection along with 100 more mana, and you're going to be really tanky because the only thing you really need to stack is elemental protections and armor. For our jewelry sets, you're going to want set elemental and set dodge. We have that on both the rings and our relic. And then for our boots, you're going to want a bunch of dodge. Your belt, you're going to want a lot of dodge. Instead of the 43% increased dodge rating we have here, instead of dodge rating, you can get dodge on potion use, which will, since you're going to be trying to spam potions for damage, give you more dodge than obviously a 43% increased dodge rating will. And then for the gloves, you're going to want that melee attack speed. Alright, and now I'm going to give you guys some gameplay.